After 30 years of work with executives in all kinds of companies from all spectrums of society to different countries as well, I kept thinking decade after decade that this was it. Like we've reached a plateau in terms of pace, in terms of complexity. And in more recent years, it's really interesting to see how not only leaders, all employees are feeling overwhelmed in a way that they haven't felt overwhelmed before. With all this increasing pace, not only of change, but also of stimuli, how people are so stimulated today through obviously technology and many other forms, it creates this way of being that people are just always challenged to meet the short-term needs. And by meeting all these short-term needs, it's often to the detriment of that bigger picture, that ability to zoom out and say, okay, now, is our short-term action aligned with what's coming up in the future? And that to a great extent should be a leader's role. Some studies are showing up to 20% of a leader's role should be invested in strategic type of thinking. A few years back that was down to 7, and I wouldn't be surprised that's down to even less, just because we're just putting out fires. So that's certainly, in my opinion, a very important issue that's facing most organizations that I've worked with in the last years. So how are people coping with all this? Quite honestly, a lot aren't. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that both at the clinic side, I'm seeing that as a consultant in organizations as well. People are burnt out. What I am seeing in organizations is a level of stress I haven't seen before. Now, they're calling us a lot. I'm surprised by the amount of conferences, of workshops, of various interventions we're doing in organizations, just to help people try to manage with all the stress, all the expectations that are on them. Because what's coming out really clearly when I talk to them is it won't change. We all agree with the pace, we all agree with the impact it's having on us, but when I ask people, will it be any different in a couple of years? Everybody is saying, no, it'll probably even be worse. So what's left? Well, what's left is how do you take care of yourself? And unfortunately, the classic taking time off at night and weekends, even that's being hampered because people are just back on either on social media, doing emails over the weekend, catching up on life, be it linked to their families or linked to work. So there is no downtime. We're sort of falling into the traditional way of doing things, and they're pumping more content to people. They're pumping more information on stress, on a whole bunch of subjects, emotional intelligence. They're all great subjects, by the way. These are all important subjects to understand, but the reality is you don't necessarily change how you are just because you've got knowledge. And I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge in our organization. Historically, we put a lot of emphasis on knowing. First years of my consulting experience, I was paid quite well because I had knowledge coming out of graduate school on various subjects, administration, psychology, etc. That worked for a while, but then content became a commodity, and a lot of people had MBAs and people were trained very well to do what they were doing. And then we started putting a lot of emphasis on processes and doing things differently. And that again has become a commodity. The next stage in evolution in an organization is how do we actually get people to embody a new way of showing up to their job? How do they actually manage their mind to deal with the complexity, to deal with the stress, and all the issues that are increasingly being found in organizations? So mindfulness is a way to tame that automatic pilot that we have. It's a way of getting out of patterns and responding to whatever's been presented to us in a more mindful way, in a more intentional way.